Hello and welcome to this week's adventures of the Windswift. And if you've been following this story, it's been taking some dramatic turns. To give us even more dramatic turns and to bring us up to speed, in case you've missed the write-up that's written below, or you didn't watch the episode last week and you've decided today is the day that you start watching the Adventures of the Windswift. So if that's a specific condition, then this is for you. And if not, well, you'll just have to skip forward a few minutes. All right, so number 3. And, well, normally that would be Jenny again, because you're still number 3 on my screen. So
that's fine.
That's fine. Take it away.
Yeah, that's fine by me. I am happy to
Jenny,
talk.
you need an I can make the dramatic turn.
Yes. Well, no, last time we wrapped up some things in the prison and finally, hopefully got rid of that place. We grabbed Port Hurricane and the injured guard and got them back onto the ship for now. And we went down to high security, making sure that it was safe, and rescued the poor guards that were stuck down there for quite some time. And Blackston murdered the Graith.
The puppy.
Yes, murdered the little puppy. Well, no, because he wanted to keep his word forever that he would never leave the Order, and he was concerned that the Order might hand him over to his father, and understandable for his character. So anyway, then
But no one else agreed.
No, everyone else is mad now, and we're all going to go live in the forest. No, we sent the Jock and Stokes down to the prison's engine to sort of investigate it and shut it down, because we don't want that thing to keep running when we leave in case of dragons. And they agreed to sort of come on to our side and write up a full report that we might show to Sector 13 at some point if we get there. And then we went back to the ship, and then we decided to tell everyone what happened so that they could make up their own minds about whether they wanted to go up against the Order or not. And Guy, you evil person, cut things right before we got their reaction.
Right.
Evil person is just a synonym for GM, I suppose. So
Absolutely. I'll bear that title.
Grandmaster asshole.
Right.
Yes. Oh.
All right, so yes, Lieutenant Tyre has stood up and is glaring at the 5 of you, and you can see that...
4, actually.
The 4, that's right. Sorry, yes, Jorik, you are up on deck, busy flying the Windswift in circles around the prison of Knaxa. She looks at the 4 of you, and you can see that her eyes are very red, and it looks like she's about to cry.
Oh, no.
And...
What? Who's about to cry? She?
She is, yes. And she looks at the 4 of you and she says, I don't understand. What do you mean the Order has been using dragon? Is it technology?
Not quite. As far as we understand it, this is some ancient magical artifact that they've somehow been able to figure out how to use that siphons energy. And then they have
magical energy.
Magical energy, yes, from anything really. If you cast a spell nearby any of these engines, they will, as Mr. Jock and Stoke put it, steal your soul. It's quite unpleasant. But and then a portal has been opened by some means that we don't quite understand. And they simply drag energy from the dragons.
But portal technology is illegal.
Yes, that's
Quite so. That is why we want to change it and rectify the course.
We want to shut down our engine, and we want to see what we can do about shutting them all down. Because as we saw in the prison, this can go very, very wrong very, very quickly.
But then what happens to the Order?
Hopefully we can change it. Hopefully we can...
The Order must go on.
The Order must go on. The Order is necessary. Hopefully we can keep doing what we do, only without the flying ships.
Or at least ships that are not powered by tapping into the draconic prison dimension. I mean,
We'll find some way.
there must be a better way, surely.
If that means keeping groups of captains in every city, or if it means simply travel a bit more slowly, or somehow taking over the Drow's teleportation circles.
That's a good idea, Edgesai. We should recruit more. The academy didn't seem like it was very
I know.
big.
Anyway, that's a question for once we actually have the ability to make any changes. But right now, we don't even know if there's anyone else in the world that would be on our side.
She takes a step closer and she says, if you're trying to make the order better and not use dragons, then I am with you.
Ah,
Thank you.
Lieutenant.
Oh, phew.
You do delight me.
Thank you.
Moments of tension.
We know that this must be extremely difficult for all of you. All of us have been in quite a state for the last couple of days, as you might have noticed, because we've been trying to process this. And if any of you need time to process before you give us any kind of answer, then that's what you'll know. We understand that.
The plan is to leave tomorrow.
Yes.
All right. Everybody else, Nakshan has to help. He steps forward, very dusty. He hasn't really had much chance to actually be relieved yet. But he drops down onto one knee and says, I will go wherever you go. You are my captains. And then he rises and he moves. Mios comes forward and goes, I'm, and he just stands next to you. He doesn't know what to say. He's a kid. Badger, Sandersan, the Cathar Bajar, he steps forward. He gives you a low bow and he says, as long as this does not affect the weapons of the ship, I think it is a good thing. It won't affect the weapons of the ship, will it?
No, that should not be a problem.
In that case, then, you have my hand.
We might, in fact, find ourselves in a very target-rich environment if this goes wrong, so your job is certainly secure.
He nods and steps forward. Verilyn Jockenstoke steps forward. She looks at the lot of you and she goes, I don't know how you got the boys to do it. But you're going to need sails one way or another. More so now, I reckon, than before. So I'll certainly stay on board the ship. I've got nowhere else to go, I suppose. Have you told the lads?
The lads?
The
Woffen and
brothers.
Woffen
brothers.
and
So
father.
they know.
They're more or less in the right direction, yes.
Oh, that's
They're
a
with
relief. All
By
right.
necessity, they knew before the rest of you.
They operate the engines. It makes the most sense, absolutely. She takes up her position. Then the two deckhands step forward and kind of bump into each other and then push each other and then come to a stop and they look at look at all of you. The bigger one, the 6'7" one, nudges the little one and Rorik steps forward and he goes, well, we're just ship hands. I don't really understand most of what you said, actually. So we're here. Unless we're fired. Are we fired?
No, we're not
good.
fired.
Not at all.
That's fine. That's great. That's chip back. And then he sort of nudges the big one and the big one goes, yeah. And then they
So now the big question is, what is Lily saying?
that leaves Lily standing there. And she looks at the four of you and she looks at the truth circle. And I know what you did with Graveler. And I know what she wanted to do. At least I think I did. I think your intentions are pure, but I also want to know more about your plan. because I'm not convinced that you're going to be able to take on the order on your own. Once other ships know about this, they're going to declare all kinds of violations against you, and that will certainly not go down well.
No, we're on the same page here.
But if what you say is true, and I have to believe that it is, because we're standing in a circle, and I presume that you would waiver any constrictions on us going to the engine room and having a look for ourselves.
You can if you wish.
It would probably be pretty useful for you to have someone who's on the inside. And you don't get much more inside than an oracle.
We were very much hoping that you would see our side of things, yes.
Besides, if I no longer work for the Order, I can now read all of your minds at my whim.
No, that's not.
I don't think that's what
Not
we're saying,
really.
I have nothing to hide.
Comfortable with that.
I have nothing to hide from you.
Although, to be fair, Lily, if you really want to go poking around in my mind, don't you? Well, you'd be prepared for what you find.
Pass, thank you. I'd rather not.
Not that I would, of course. We've been trained not to do it. But I'm just saying it could be useful. It gets awfully boring stuck in that room all on your own.
Well, I'm sure you're not required to remain in there. Do any of our fellow captains require you to remain in that room all the time? I don't.
No, you can wander around as much as you like. Just don't read my mind.
As your doctor, I feel you should probably get more fresh air.
Well, I look forward to reading the new tenets of your order when you've finished writing them.
It'll probably be very much the same as the last ones, only enforced.
The bits, Edict 1 at the bottom, we'll have to add no dragon technology or using dragon energy in any way. We mean it.
This time.
No.
All right.
Seriously, though.
For reals.
For realsies.
Now, I can inform you that the Yarko is going to be here probably by sunrise tomorrow morning. I've been in contact with their oracle. Standard transmission stuff, very boring, location-wise and that kind of thing. So that is something to consider. I also will not necessarily read the minds of anyone that you come into contact with, because I do personally think that's a violation of everyone's space. But at the same time, I can, although I'm not particularly good at it. That's kind of why I was assigned here, but that's not...
Thank you. Noted.
We'll keep it in mind.
Right. You should also know that there's someone on the ship whose mind I can't read. I don't know why.
And that is?
One of the prisoners. I'm not sure which one, because I can't really read the other one's mind. It's like a jumble of visuals about insects and things. Anyway.
No, that's quite... That makes sense.
Then that kind of, we can
It's,
eliminate which one is which there.
Sounds like interrogation will be a waste of time.
Then she steps onto your side, standing right at the back with a tray of, it looks like hot cocoa or something, is Hurricane. And he looks across the room and he says, well, where does that leave me? Go back to prison?
No.
Honestly, we know that what you did is very bad, but we could use any ally we can take at this point.
I know. I have seen the state of that galley. It was not pretty. I am surprised none of you did not die of food poisoning.
Well, I cooked for myself. I was not going... Yeah, but I may have been contributed... Yeah, that mess may have been partly my fault, but I didn't have very much assistance in there, and I couldn't find anything.
Con O'Dana voiced his opinion to try to bring you back on board. I think you still violated safety protocols.
Let's say you'd be confined to the ship, if nothing else.
To the galley.
I would be...
No,
Not just to the galley, but don't leave the ship.
I will not.
Let's just extend the bounds of the prison to the Windswift as well, shall we?
I accept that fate quite happily.
And welcome back.
He bows gratefully and starts handing cocoa around.
Yay!
Then another voice, which comes from the sickbay side, and standing bandaged and looking bruised is the guard known as Cabin. And he looks across the room and he says, well, what about me?
What about you?
I
You.
asked to be here, but I'm here now, and well,
you've got a decision to make, haven't you?
Well, if the decision is stay aboard this vessel or go back to the prison, I'm going to vote to stay on the vessel. You saved us from everything that went wrong down there.
Do you know how to use a ballista?
Well, I have some experience with harpoon guns, which I assume
Could
some
use
of
a
the kind
second
of idea.
gunner.
I'm willing to train you up as our second gunner. Doesn't take long. It's a case of, point and shoot. It's quite easy.
Even I can
You
do
just
it.
have to avoid the ship as you're shooting, but otherwise it's all very easy.
Sounds pretty much like a harpoon gun to me, he says. Then he sort of hobbles forward and says, well, then I reckon you got yourself a second gunner.
I look at Con. I look at Con and say, well, did you let him out of the... Why is he here even? What's the pay like?
I told Ty to gather
He's not a
everyone in the
prisoner.
hold.
He clearly woke up and made his
I
way.
guess. Ty being her usual overzealous self.
No,
Well, it
don't
turned
worry.
out well.
We'll do training, don't you worry. Well, cocoa is handed around.
I didn't tie him up.
Everyone is sort of cheerful in that moment of camaraderie, and then everyone starts to get quiet as they start to contemplate the actual implications of
What they just decided on.
Oh, but Heraclan, you collected some interesting recipes in a book. And I'm pretty sure some of those will cheer everybody up. Have you tried the locusts and honey yet?
I have not had an opportunity to collect enough insects, but yes, I will certainly give it a try as soon as we get somewhere that stocks that type of thing.
Oh, it's just like peanuts with honey. You'll love it. It's fantastic.
I think I'll go
Very
see
well,
what the Jocker
dismissed.
folks are doing.
Acid starts spraying out of the hearing holes.
Everybody starts to break apart and go off in different directions. All right, so what are the five of you doing? Jorik, you'll be relieved by Lieutenant Ty. She'll come up and let you get down below.
I would be heading back to the
thank you.
Jock and Stokes to give them the final orders that will stay here for the rest of the day, give
All
them
right.
time to finish their schematics,
Not a
and
problem.
then they're supposed to, again, shut it down, dismantle it even.
Right.
I'll pause or stop Maxton and say, do you think they could probably finish it quicker if I was there to make the notes for them?
You can come with me and ask them.
Yeah, I'll tag along.
All right.
All right, so when I'm there, I'll tell them that we told the crew.
Did
So-
anyone rebel?
No, not a single one.
Oh, that's a relief. That's a relief. You know how stubborn Lieutenant Ty could be. I was.
And also, nobody cried out for your heads as well. They were all quite understanding, really.
I'm not sure they comprehended that you knew.
Equally good too. All right. Well, absolutely. If you're here to help us, we can just dictate and you can write down. That's certainly not a problem. Captain Blackson, sir, when you say dismantle, do you want us to make sure that this is completely unusable? You want us to destroy the engine within the...
It stays out. Or whatever you need to do with it. And also, if you want, you can take the AU with you. To fill our...
The ABU?
Sorry.
I'll do that, sir. Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll probably have it done by this afternoon then.
I'll stay and assist.
Assist.
And at the same time, try to sort of figure out as best I can. Sort of, I'll ask questions and I'll try to learn sort of
You
how
speak
to.
Gnomish, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Awesome.
How to handle the engine and sort of what do I do if this starts exploding and sort of try to learn the basics of it.
So basically, once I put it there, then I would go to see where the four was it?
Right. Yeah.
Guardsmen were sleeping and waiting for them basically to wake up again.
Sure. All right.
And I would have basically asked for Hurricane to get like something extra to eat for then
Oh, sure.
basically
Yeah.
transport it to them, whatnot, and basically waiting for them
Gotcha.
to wake up again, to give them something to eat and tell them that, well, they are supposed to be back at their posts. once they're able again, right? Once they
Right. So, Ket, what are you doing?
Oh, she's probably gone off with Heracon to discuss the fortunate favors of Locus and.
Right.
But yeah, she probably would go and help him clean up the mess that she knows.
Perfect.
She made.
All right. Con?
I take some time to meditate in the shrine.
Right.
Just,
You're getting company. I was heading there as well.
All right. So there's a quiet kind of nod, and then this deep contemplation of what's going on. Okay, not a problem. That transpires. Blackson, since you're the only one who's sort of gotten active, eventually Polos, who's the guard that you were speaking to, he and his men have woken up. They've sort of refreshed. They're incredibly happy for the food. And yes, are eager to get back to their posts.
Great. If they are back into their posts, before one goes, I would ask them if there's any way to open the weaponry with or without the hand of the warden.
There was a key that the
I have it.
had.
That's the one thing that I got, but like we couldn't open it because we didn't have like a living hand.
Yes, that was for the warden's indulgence entrance. There is a different entrance which we can show you. It's a longer route. That's why the warden didn't like it. That's why he had the water.
Great. Show me.
All right, so they start to take you down some stairs, and it's a little bit more of a walk, a little bit more of a corridor, and there's some more of those doors that they have to open up and move through. But eventually they get you back to the armory.
Thank you. Dismissed.
Yes, sir. And they all go off back to back to maximum security.
Grab the shit out of it. You need weapons.
You're stealing the rods and things?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. That's not a problem. Yes, so you get 10 lightning staves.
Great.
All right. And the rest are sort of catch-alls and polearms and mundane kind of weapons. Are you taking those as well?
I think we could at least use a few of them. Like not the prison weapons, like the man catchers and whatnot, right? Like that's not necessarily the weaponry we need. But I know that there were other stuff that we could use. Like there were like some small like swords and shit, and like bows, bolts, and arrows, and that's certainly stuff we could use.
Yeah, there should be enough for everyone to have a polearm and a sidearm.
So that's what you're pretty much doing for the rest of the afternoon. Is that, gentlemen, how long are you in the shrines for?
Probably not more than like an hour, basically. I'm just sitting there trying to get my mind in order.
All right.
And sort of not really directing any specific conscious thoughts towards my goddess, but just a general communion of...
right.
Yeah, try and tap back into the energies of life.
Okay. Then what are you going to do once you are done with that?
I'm going to, with a slightly more skip in my stride, it's a much better day today. I go and raid the infirmary.
Right.
In the prison.
In the prison, should I say.
Your own.
Oh, I see. It's like what, you break into your own infirmary and you sneak around.
Why?
We've got two of each. We keep forgetting we've got two of certain things at this point.
All right, so you're going down to the infirmary. You pass Blackson, who's got a wheelbarrow full of weaponry as he's going.
Good thinking.
On your way past, you pass Con with a wheelbarrow full of drugs as you kind of...
We have a storage room. Time to use it.
Drugs and weapons.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, anything of particular value that I come across.
All right. So basically what I'm going to say is that between the two of you, the 10 lightning rods are the unique sort of item. Okay. Each of them has 4 charges. And once they discharge, they're discharged, right? So that's something to bear in mind. So there's 10 of those. And then in terms of weaponry and in terms of medication, and this is where it's going to start to become important, you have 3 months worth of medical supplies for the full gamut of medical conditions and that kind of thing, for the entire crew, right? So you can sort of ration it out and go from there. In terms of weaponry, you have enough weaponry to issue every man, woman, and other on board a sword, a shield, a polearm, and a spear. You have 200 arrows and 10 bows.
Right.
Yeah.
A longsword?
Absolutely. Longsword each.
Blackston,
I'm not
you'll have
sure
to
it's
teach me
wise
how
to
to
give
use
the
this.
cat a long sword.
Yes.
Probably stab herself.
Con, what did you say?
You'll have to teach me how to use this, I think.
The sword.
I'm holding it. I'm holding a longsword and looking slightly thoughtfully at it.
What did one wise person once say? Stick it with the pointy end.
All right.
Yes.
But yes, we'll see what we can do about it.
If you want a more detailed lesson, you can come to Jorik. He's also proficient with it.
You could always check with Saket if it's possible to recharge those staffs as well.
Right. Adresai, you are with the gnomes, and now that they are sort of unbound by their oaths, it's almost as if now it's all that they want to talk about. And you need to give me a wisdom saving throw, if you please.
To not fall asleep.
Against insanity.
Oh, for once I did a decent saving throw. My goodness, that's 20, not natural.
You realize that you are learning so much about the engineering, and they are just sharing so much with you that the speed of their work has slowed down. Because as they take off something, they say, "Oh, do you know what this is? This is a Pifflevel 5000. Now, this was developed by that very famous gnome." And so eventually, you go, "Hang on, we have a job to do. Let's refocus." So you actually
Does she though? Does Saket so?
They repress every instinct they have and go, "No, we need to get out of here. I will come to the engine room and sit with you 4 days after this, and we can talk and talk and talk. But we need to get this done."
Somewhere in the back of Adresai's mind is echoing, "I'm proud of you, Adresai."
And as she hears this, now tell me again, what is this?
No, at the back of their mind is just.
All right. Saket, you and Hurricane are busy going through the kitchens and sort of restoring and that sort of thing. He suggests perhaps that the kitchens down in the prison were quite well stocked.
Really?
Not very nice food, I admit. A lot of it was pickled or dried or preserved, but if we are not going to get the support of the orders, maybe it would be good to...
Well, we should. Did they have pickled beetroot down there? Because I'm quite partial to pickled beetroot. And did it have gherkins?
Lots of pickled beetroot.
Well, then why are we still talking? We should just...
Right. So passing the convoys of weapons and drugs is now good as well, as the shopping of Knaxa prison continues until eventually everyone
and the Windswift starts saying
The cargo was empty. I think we have, I could look it up, I think we have 40 tons of cargo we can put on.
100 tons, I think, even, actually.
Well, maximum capacity is 100 tons, but then your movement speed is practically 0 with magic.
Yeah.
Without magic, you'd be moving at like 5 knots.
I mean,
right.
Carrying capacity is 12 tons after load.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So, Jorik, what are you doing for the rest of the afternoon? Since there are no ballista at the prison for you to go and.
No, actually, Jorik spends a little extra time in the shrine.
Right.
He's not been there in really long, and he needs guidance.
Gonna stock up on some extra laws.
Right.
Yeah. So he offers some prayers and offerings to Nim, and asks for clarity to see patterns and keeping his mind in check and make the right decisions for everyone.
All right.
And then I think I'm going to let's actually start going over and take stock of every crew member's actual skills when it comes to repelling borders. How do they handle bows? How do they handle weapons? Can they hold their own? Blah, 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 blah. I'm starting to see who needs training and what we need to do as a crew. That's what I'm doing.
As you're about to leave the shrine to go and do that, you realize that you were not alone in the shrine. But standing, leaning against the door, is that large individual who knows you.
He's out of prison.
What?
It is good to see that you have not lost the old ways.
Dun, dun, dun.
Shoot him!
Actually, what do I do? No, I remain calm. All right, so I turn around and no, I've never abandoned the old ways. Except for the bad parts.
That makes me very unhappy to hear. You see, I know something about your daughter, your sister. But I also know there is something about this crew that would not necessarily entertain my requests. So I thought, let me speak to you privately. But you refuse my invitations. So,
believe it or not, I have been busy. I am coming to you.
I am not used to being kept waiting.
You've been in a prison. Why are you not used to waiting?
Let us just say that there are some people which it is good for them to think that I am in the prison. So here
Next for one.
For one.
Terms. I will tell you what is about to befall your sister in exchange for your word that you will grant me safe passage back to Dragonmore.
Well, we will see, I say, and stand up, walk through the door, and down to the brig to speak with him in person. Because Jorik is assuming that this is some form of telepathy or something. He does not believe this guy is out of prison.
Right? So you arrive at the prison and you can see that Kev and Rorik, the two deckhands, are sitting on duty and they're busy playing cards as they are wont to do. And the one cell has got the little lizard gnome thing in it. And the other cell, give me a perception check.
Oh, natural 20.
Ooh.
So 23 then.
All right. The other cell is completely empty. You hear the footfalls of steps coming down to your level, and the individual is standing behind you.
Would you mind getting back in your cell?
We
can talk.
Secure my deal.
Sorry, what did he say?
Will this secure my deal?
We need to talk, you and I. And I would prefer you stay in the cell while we do that. Also, you two, learn to pay attention. Dismissed.
I don't... But, right.
Get out!
Yes, sir. They sort of file past you, and then they file past him, and they go like, hang on a moment, isn't he... Don't pay any attention to those fools. They are not to be blamed. He says, he steps up to the cell bars and he goes, you really want me in there?
Well, I'm coming with you. And I walk into the cell and close the door behind me.
All right.
All right, so you've been pining for my attention for days. What is it that you want?
Have you heard of Duke von Kier?
Well, most of us have, yes. Why?
He is the current incumbent of Ulkov.
What, Ulkov?
The
Isn't he dead?
That was Duke Ulkov who founded that city.
Oh, you mean the city? Yeah, right. So I see.
I have
Yes?
decided to return to reclaim my hometown. So, if you provide me passage back to Drakenmore, I will make sure that your sister survives.
Oh, shit. Jarek suddenly goes ice cold. I see. I now understand how you got out of the cell. Do I even have a choice in the matter?
Sure. You can agree to provide your protection of me whilst you take me back to Drakenmore, or I will simply feed on everybody on this vessel and then make my way there anyway.
Yes, that's what I thought. Well, let's put it this way. You will remain in the cell for the entire journey. I will not have you run around among the crew, risking incidents. And I do not want you and your ego accidentally spilling things the crew does not need to know.
I have been in that prison for a very long time.
Yeah, then you can stay in a
A
cell
few
for
more
another
months
few
is
times.
neither here nor there.
Yes.
Oh.
So we have an accord.
You know what? Considering who you are and what you do to others like you, I will gladly accept.
Good. In that case, then, we have 6 months to save your sister.
Right. So what has happened to her?
Duke von Kier has decided to make her one of his 7 brides. It would appear she did not necessarily consummate her marriage with some idiot named Kor.
Is Kor alive?
I do not know. I am in a prison on the other side of the world. The fact that my sources managed to get me this much information, I am grateful for.
Right. So he intends to make her a vampire.
That is correct.
I
I
see.
intend to eat him.
Oh yeah. I don't care what you intend to do with him. But why is it 6 months? Is it when the wedding is planned, or this ceremony, or whatever?
It will be a blood moon in 6 months.
I see.
He is a traditional vampire. I cannot blame him.
Is there anyone in Drakenmore who is not a traditionalist at this point? Right. Right.
It is good to see that even though you are so far away from home, you still know who is in charge.
Don't stab him. Don't stab him. Don't stab him.
Stab him, stab him.
Do not mistake this for obedience. This is out of practicality and care for my sister.
Absolutely.
I quite frankly do not care for you, you pile of dust. But had you been any other vampire, I would have thrown you out and let you fry in the sun. But because you are who you are and the chaos you can throw upon the vampires of Drakenmore, I will gladly help. But do not for an instant believe that I am your servant. Because I will kill you. Are we clear?
We are absolutely clear, he says, and he sort of lounges back down on his bunk. You may now go.
I throw an overly fashionable bow and say, yes, my lord, and I walk away. and then cursing under my breath.
So that guy in the high sec wasn't a vampire after all.
right.
Yes, correct.
He was trying to tell us. Poor guy. Who the fuck was that?
Anyway,
We don't care.
No, we don't care.
Only one thing. The Duke who had the sister, what was his name?
Von Kier.
Kia.
Correct, Von Kier. You know that Von Kier, like all of the 8 Dark Dukes, is a self-serving, gluttonous bastard. And that, yes, traditionally the Dukes have 7 brides with which they can then make vampire spawn to kind of patrol their borders and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Correct. All right. So the rest of you eventually finish up your shopping expeditions and other bits and bobs as you're going along. Is there anything specific that you want to do before you all re-embark upon the ship, having completed your various missions and things? No? All right. Yes?
One thing. Once the engine is actually shut down and there is no horrifying fire inside, I'd like to have a closer look at those runes and actually make a full transcription of them.
Right. Well, Jockenstoke says, I'm afraid that won't really help you too much. The runes, now that the engine is shut down, we actually erase these runes from the engine itself so that no one can obviously determine what the runes were to open the portal in the first place. And
no, that makes sense.
It's got its own set of runes. Each engine is unique. That's how they're tracked. So remove the numbers, the runes from the engine, and the engine disappears, basically. But if you were to do that, then they're basically, they're basically a chassis number. Once we've removed these runes will be basically useless.
So actually making a note of these runes would just basically give people a possibility of restarting it again if they got hold of it.
Quite possibly, if they knew exactly what they were doing. There's a possibility. It's not a very big one, though. You'd have to know exactly.
You mean like this?
So, yes. All right. As they sort of shut it down, you then see that they take out of a backpack this little green, it's a glass vial that contains a green liquid. And they very carefully put it in the very center of the engine, inside its maw. And then the other one takes out this rather complicated crossbow and loads up a single bolt that has the head of the bolt looks like a brass knob more than anything else. And then you all retreat back as far as you possibly can. And then Qualan takes very careful aim and fires this bolt with amazing precision straight into the maw. The bolt hits that green, the glass. The glass shatters, and that liquid just splashes out on the inside of the engine and immediately starts steaming or smoking. And you can see it starting to eat away at the engine all around it. It's best if we leave now. If there's any residual magic, when that stuff hits it, it's going to blow.
Right. Blow how much, actually? Exactly. Like, destroy the prison blow up, or just this room blow up?
We're fairly certain we cleared most of the magic out of the pipes in the system, so it shouldn't be...
Right, but we want to get moving.
We would want to get moving,
Let's
take the MUs with them before,
yes,
right?
Yeah, let's gather up all the tools and the MUs. Get out of there.
Absolutely.
So what exactly was that green liquid?
It's a gnomish fire.
Oh.
Aye. Highly combustible, particularly vicious kind of nasty stuff.
I've heard about it, but I've never seen it used before.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty fair way of making sure an engine will never work ever again.
Yeah, you could say that.
That vial was meant for the Windswift, by the way. If we were taken by boarders or pirates, it's always on hand, just in case. Aye.
So when it comes to shutting down our engine...
Well, now we'll have to do it the more traditional way.
That's fair.
You know how the Kadandachi went.
It exploded, didn't it?
Aye. We'd do the same with the Windy. Yeah, it wouldn't be pretty and it would kill everybody on board, but at least the technology wouldn't get to the wrong hands.
Yes, but you're telling me that after we shut down the engine on the Windswift, it's going to have to stay on the Windswift?
It's a fairly instantaneous shutdown. As in...
No, I meant when we shut it down later.
Aye.
When we shut the engine down later.
Aye.
The engine... we're not going to be able to, like, throw it out.
Oh, no, not whatsoever. Absolutely not. That would be... that would violate the deepest beliefs of our core to throw it away.
Yeah, no, I'm just checking that we're going to have to
probably melt it down over time into something. But
yes, but
just get more.
We don't want to be able to start it up again.
Aye. All right.
But, yes.
Well, eventually, the 5 of you are once again back aboard the Windswift, with now a very, very empty prison down below, apart from security.
So how long until the other ship arrives?
It is scheduled to arrive in about 10 hours.
Yarko? All right. I think 10 hours is fine. I think we can leave.
Yes, I think we should get moving.
Just Maxac. I mean, do we really want to meet these other captains? That are gonna stay here?
I don't think so.
I mean, is there any benefit? We could talk them into being our allies, I guess, but they're gonna stay here anyway, right? Like, what good is it?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why we should talk to them.
And the only reason would be to take care of their engine and make sure that they don't rebuild an engine, but I don't think that's going to be able to...
no, they're not going to be able to rebuild the engine in the prison.
So we might as well leave, right?
There are personnel in the prison to receive them, so...
And a few mysteries for them along the way.
I think it's important for them to be able to actually focus on re-securing that prison and actually make sure it works this time around. I don't really want to drag them into this.
All right.
Hopefully someone will realize that that poor man who was screaming out, "I'm not a vampire," may need further investigation.
We don't know this.
Well, you don't know
I don't know this.
Yeah.
Well,
since they
I'm
believe
sure
in
they'll
vampire.
figure it out eventually.
They'll figure it out when he starts dying from, lack of food and water.
Right.
It's like, oh no.
Wait a minute.
Go to the wheel then and get us underway, get us into the water, and on our way for the Straits of Braithbraga.
Right.
Should be good weather, hopefully. Hopefully.
Well, now we have to actually roll for those sorts of things. So let's have a look. As you clear the smoke plumes of that gigantic volcano which hangs over the prison city of Knaxa, you manage to get a fairly decent speed of 12 knots under full sail as the ship makes her way through those the Straits of Braithbraga, as you say, creaking and groaning. She doesn't mind doing this but not for particularly long. And it's wonderful clear skies. So yes, good sailing. The Straits of Braithbraga on this side anyway are fairly calm. It's when you head north that they start to become a problem. So navigating to the south is fairly simple, but at this speed, the 250 miles to any other city of note, such as Wald, will take you quite some time to cover. During that time, are you doing anything specific?
I want to teach everyone this cipher, sort of call everyone together at some point and tell them that since the adventures in the Drow Kingdoms, I've been working on this, and this isn't technically unbreakable, but I've made it as difficult as I can. So I'll teach them the key needed to...
And are you sure this is going to give us anything at all? With people like similar skills to yours, wouldn't they just be able to read it? Or any other caster with similar skills?
Well, it's a step in the right direction. I mean, it's not going to help against like somebody with genius level intelligence or has magic helping them. Certainly not.
So that it's a step in the right direction, but we still need to be careful about these things.
Yes.
It'll keep the general rabble out, I suppose.
Let's just say that the DC to break the cipher is 21. So,
right.
Okay.
Right.
Jenny's relatively smart then.
Yes.
I get the carpenters to work doing what they can en route to make the ship more seaworthy, and the Jock and Stoke engineers to work dismantling and shutting down that engine. Shutting down and dismantling that engine.
Right. Well, it is the second day of your sea voyage when all of the captains are summoned to the engineering room by the Jock and Sticks.
Mhm.
We thought that you'd like to be here at this moment, as the engine of the Windswift is about to be extinguished forever.
Oh, that sounds
Don't know if anyone wants to say any words.
good riddance. Let's do it.
Switch it off.
Can we dump the engine, or will there be anything left at all? I mean, there is an engine release, yes?
I don't think
Once
dumping
it's
it's a
extinguished?
good idea with the whole other people coming
No, we'll keep it on.
across
All
the
right.
technology.
And he...
So what does this engine actually look like? You never really described it. So it's a big, block of like copper tubes and...
It's
A furnace?
effectively, it looks like a furnace, the front end of it looks like a furnace with various pressure gauges and MU values and dials and things which you've become accustomed to. But the back of it, from what you can see, because it does stretch over 2 decks, the back of it looks to be like a very large glass dome, which has, or it used to, not anymore, had a green sort of energy playing across the top of it, which was emanating a magical field. And
Right.
that magical field was helping move and propel the ship.
So the metals is what? Copper, iron, steel?
Yes, correct. Those kinds of things, alloys as well.
And then glass is what? Is it actually glass? Is it sapphire? Is it...
No, it's actual glass itself.
Right. I think we can just destroy it and dispose of it one bit at a time, right? I mean, it will be a puzzle.
Pieces.
Exactly. And it will lighten the ship dramatically as well, so we will be able to get more.
Oh, aye, the engine's 2 tons on its own, so that'll certainly help. Very well then. It pains me to my very core, but he takes this, looks like a large chisel, and he takes a hammer and he places it onto one of those runes, and he just, oh, for the love of it, and he just smashes the chisel through the rune, and the entire engine just goes black. It's done.
Well, there's no going back now.
So if you need help with the deconstruction, I written most of the letters I need to write.
Aye, it's going to certainly take us a wee bit of time. There's no doubt about that. But if you'll excuse me, I just need to go to the shrines and take a moment. It's the first engine I've ever murdered, he says, and he kind of leaves. Quallen looks after him, and she looks back at the rest of it, or he looks back. He's just a bit emotional right now. He helped build the Windswift, so it's a bit touchy.
The ship is still the ship.
Just the engine.
We gnomes tend to look at the engine as the actual ship, and the wooden bits around it is just what's allowing us to access the engine. But
He'll come around.
He'll come around, he will. Aye.
Kind of like how the body is just a vessel to ferry the brain around, really.
Aye.
All right. Give me that chisel and the hammer.
All right, absolutely. That's what you do. Con, I assume you and Jorik and Knaxa are busy taking turns at the helm, sort of guiding.
Trying to learn how the hell to drive this in water.
Water, right, absolutely.
Jorik and Knaxa spend a lot of time sort of thinking, isn't it my ship?
Con's like, I'm loving it. I have blisters, but I love it.
I guess dividing my time between keeping ours, consulting with Adressai about our course,
right,
and supervising or attempting to supervise seaworthiness.
right.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, give me a medicine check whilst you're on duty on the 4th day. You're nearing the Horn of Sanctuary.
That is a grand total of 10.
10. Several of the crewmen are experiencing seasickness. They've got lack of appetite, they're woozy, they're nauseous, they're weak.
Poor me, us.
And Kev, the big 6-footer, is particularly affected by it. Can't keep my eyes open.
Often hits the big ones hardest. I'll work up something, shall I?
All right. Absolutely not a problem. The 5th day, you are about to arrive at Deneth Wald. Kev reports he's feeling worse. Really, I can't even get out of my bunk, Doctor. I don't know what's going on.
I'm erring on the side of caution. I give him a closer examination.
All right. Give me a perception check.
Is he just seasick, or is there something else going? What, sorry, check?
A perception check.
Oh, no.
Like a vampire draining his blood?
Yeah.
14.
All right.
By the way, Yorick, you're playing to tell us, or?
I was going to, but it hasn't been my turn yet.
Right. So yes.
The 6 days on road, so.
Is anyone doing anything for 6 days? I get silence, so I'm assuming no. All right. So you do a thorough examination of him, and the only thing that you can find is that he has, it looks like a cut on his upper shoulder. Made by either a bad knife or a scrape against some metal, but other than that, you can't find any obvious signs.
No, you may be developing an infection, but I wouldn't expect you to be quite so lethargic. Maybe it's combining with the seasickness. I'll clean this up. Do try and be more careful. Looks like. And you better take this in case of the rust. Right, so this is a poultice. Now just change the dressing twice a day.
Right.
I guess try to take it easy
Yes,
for the next day or so.
Did you get his tetanus shots?
Actually, I'll go and see if I can
But
find.
his tetanus herbs.
All right. So absolutely, that's he sort of disappears. He does feel quite guilty. The pumps. So the Windswift is equipped in her lower deck, the drop deck, with 4 manual bilge pumps, so that you can pump water out of the hull. And those are, if you're not sailing the Windswift, if you're not in the rigging of the Windswift, you are in the drop deck of the Windswift, pumping out water, because those doors are great. But they really are not designed for an extended.
Wait, those doors are great?
No wonder we're sinking, right? Yes. So the motion of the water on the lower side of the hull is causing these doors to
I will monitor him over the course of the journey because I'm concerned.
Yeah, well,
now.
this is in the afternoon. You're arriving at Deneth Wald.
Yeah, Blackston. Jorah goes to find Blackston.
Right.
Blackston
is either pumping or pulling.
He's probably dismantling the engine, I think.
Oh, right. Yeah. That does take 3 days. So, yeah.
Yeah, so if the 3 days are over, then I would be helping. With
Blackston, I would like to ask a favor of you.
Oh, sure.
Actually, 2 favors.
Sure, I don't keep count. It's fine.
1, promise not to murder me, for I've done something awful. And 2, do you have a way to deal with vampires?
What?
The prisoner, I have interrogated him.
Okay, let's go. Let's go to your quarters, I guess.
Yes. So we go to my quarters, and I tell Blackston that the prisoner we're carrying is none other than Duke Olkov. I know that doesn't say much to you, but to me, he's one of the original Dark Dukes of Drakenmore.
Okay.
He caused too much trouble among the other dukes because he liked feeding on other vampires rather than on us mortal races. So he was... Well, the legend says he was actually exposed and locked inside a sun chamber.
It looks like the sun chamber was next to a volcano, huh?
Yes. And apparently he is now on our ship. And he does have information regarding my sister. And all he wants is to get back to Drakkenborg. Now, 2 things. The Order has no interest in this man. He is not a dragon worshipper. Right. The reason he's here is because the Drakkenmorian dukes likely made a deal with the Order to keep him here.
Right.
2, if we return him to Drakkenmore, he will cause so much chaos among the vampire lords that the mortals might actually get a respite. So I'm all for this.
Are you
we
sure?
Bring him back this, he's gonna kick shit among the vampires.
Yorick, if I'm certain of one thing. Chaos never, and this is actually interesting because this is exactly my backstory. Chaos never helps the general population. War always hurts.
Yes, likely. But you see, this... I almost said man. I spit on the floor. This creature, he's not one to lead armies. He will do this personally.
Do you know why I joined the Orders?
I don't actually
know.
You? I never... You might have noticed I'm not the most social person, so no.
Right. I joined the Orders because in a young age, I saw the damage that war can do to a country and to civilians. And I was among those. And I vowed to myself that I will not let this pass anymore. So, to answer your first question, I don't know this Duke and what he can do, and I have never fought a vampire or tried to, so I cannot tell you how good I can deal with him.
No, I was more interested if you knew any ways to keep undead from moving about.
Well,
because iron bars
we could just open the windows and solve the problem once and for all, and that would be a possibility as far as I know. Otherwise, as far as I know, they usually have a place of respite quite literally. Maybe you could ask the cat and she could do sacrilege with it. I don't know.
Well, you mean torture him by standing there and talking?
Oh, desecrate his grave. You're good at desecrating graves.
No, but seriously, I don't know. But before, what did you talk with him about? Is there anything? Because now I think I need to talk with him as well.
Oh, you may. Just be wary. He is an incredibly arrogant, egotistical, egomaniacal.
My father is a noble, and I have dealt with a lot of nobles in Brunei.
Yes, but this is a vampire as well. But what he wants is safe passage back to Drakkenmore.
Right.
That's all.
I'm more concerned with what he wants to do than once he is there.
He intends to reclaim his city. Or, okay, so what correction. That's what he says he wants.
What?
And that sort of aligns with my goals, because the current ruler of the city of Ulkov has kidnapped my sister and is intending to turn her into a bride of the night. Which in your tongue would be he means to turn her into a vampire slave.
I got that. Yes, I got that. Yes. All right. So, but we know this already, don't we? Is there any reason other than the chaos he wants to produce to keep him alive, from your point of view?
Well, it would definitely help in saving my sister's life if he took care of the...
Right. And if you have an inside man, absolutely.
Yeah. That's the only reason.
No.
I have no love for him or for the other vampires. I am for Drakkenmore. I hate the vampires.
Okay, that's good. I too.
Out of sheer spite, I would release him upon Drakkenmore just to fuck with them.
Yes, but the question is, will this help the general population? what do you say if we talk with him and trying to gauge his actual intent on what he's going to do, and then try to figure out what the consequences of that would be? Because if he talk the truth to you, you already know where your sister is and what you need to do. Certainly, it might be beneficial to have an inside man, a powerful ally, if you can call it that, or even just like chaos to just be able to kind of slip through that way. But I think also, what's the timetable on this? I mean, it's okay, I know, but
Well, he'd said that in Drakenwood there will be a blood moon in 6 months.
That's when it's going to happen?
Traditionally, they do these things during blood moons because they're superstitious assholes.
Well, it's good for us in this case, I guess.
Yes.
So
that's our time frame then.
Okay. So we talk with him. We try to find out what's going on with him, what the intention is, what the consequences would be to do actually what he wants us to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if we decide that this would be bad overall, then I guess we'll find out, to answer your first question.
Yes.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
Con, a seagull lands on the deck of the Windswift and promptly turns into a rather attractive young woman. She steps forward and she says, "The name Druid Sanctuary. I welcome you to our territorial waters. Who is the captain?
Good morning. Well, I'm one of them.
You speak Druidic, don't you?
Yes.
By necessity.
I'm a druid.
Yes.
Captain, you are welcome at Deneth Wald. What is your intention, please?
Thank you. We intend to hopefully dock and make some repairs to our vessel.
You have suffered damage?
I guess repairs is imprecise. Yes, there's been some damage, but most of the work will require, I think, we've identified areas of improvement to the structure. Post-experience has given us new insights into ways in which we can improve our ship.
And the name of your vessel?
This is the Windswift. We are of the Order Hastari.
You are Order of the Hastari?
That is correct. I show her my palm.
Very well. In which case, then, we welcome you to Deneth Wald. You should know that there have been others asking for your vessel.
Have they?
Yes. Several, as a matter of fact. We believe them to be either from the Sajet Empire or possibly agents of the Graith Empire.
Or both!
I see. Well, it has been a busy few months, I will admit, to our order business.
Indeed. I would, if you wish to keep your identity quiet, I would suggest you don't mention that name too often whilst you're in Deneth Wald.
Very
whilst
good.
we pride ourselves on being a city of nature, we can't speak for those that call her home. I'm fairly certain there's several ears that are listening very attentively for any sighting of your vessel.
Well, I very much appreciate the warning.
Could I ask, does your business bring you here because you do genuinely need repairs to your vessel, or because you're here on order business?
Well, as we are druids here and can speak freely, I can assure you that it is not in the conduct of our operations. So we genuinely are in search of some good shipwrights. In fact, if you know of any, I would be even more grateful for the help you've already given. Interpret that.
There is one who I think will work very well for you. He is a fellow druid, and if I might say, what he does to wood is almost criminal. Seek out Fangvir when you arrive at Deneth Wald. He will make sure your vessel is up to snuff. Captain, I have other vessels that I must welcome to our harbor. I do wish you a pleasant and peaceful stay in Wald. Please bear in mind that the consumption of meat is restricted to herbivorous animals only.
So bacon's okay.
And with that, she turns back into a seagull and takes off. Yeah.
I wanted to say...
Shoot a lycanthrope.
I wanted to say before we move along that as they were dismantling the engine, the Jock and Stokes, I would have sort of been there to see how they did it.
Right.
If we need to emergency dismantle an engine in the future, I'd like to know how to do it.
I guess a lot of muscle mass.
Yes, basically.
Physical trauma.
No, it's just sort of how to make sure that the portal goes down safely and doesn't expand and open up.
Right.
Also, we spend a lot of time talking about engineering and
absolutely
in Gnomish just chattering away constantly.
Absolutely, without a doubt. As you slowly take this thing apart, you realize that there's piping and conduiting, which you didn't ever notice, that run the full length of the ship, that is hidden behind wooden panels and things that you have to slowly wrench away and pull apart and get to and take out as they follow the letter of the order to dismantle the engine to the final conclusion.
Awesome.
Yeah, you do know that they sort of impart that if a ship goes down, or if the engine has to be ejected for whatever reason, the Windswift can do it, but the engine's then tracked, and Section 13 has a recovery division that's specifically designed to go and find these things and shut them down.
Right. That's why we did the rune thing, right?
Correct.
No, we want to keep it.
Yeah, it's the highest paid job within the entire Gnomish state.
I bet.
Because oftentimes these engines do explode spontaneously, or yes, they're a risk.
Bit volatile.
Correct. So, Kate, are you doing anything on your 6 days? You and Hurricane have swapped stories. You've grilled lobster. Well, you've grilled various sea things that have been caught off of the back of the ship.
Oh, she probably. Well, that's actually, yeah, she probably would go into a complete eating shell. She's just going to eat her feelings right now.
All right, so you come back to find Saket 400 pounds heavier, but happy.
Oh no, she's one of those horrible people that just eats a lot of things and never puts on weight.
Yeah.
Just sandwich shaped when we get to
All right, the city of Wald is something to be experienced.
So just for clarity.
Yes.
Before we get into the city, I want to actually interview our guest. The other thing is, once we get there, the dismantlement is complete, right?
Correct.
So any of the valuable metals,
correct,
like copper, silvers, and golds or whatnot, right? Fittings, yes. I would not want necessarily to throw overboard. Like,
right, you can sell them, absolutely. Yeah.
But the stuff that is not like just like a piece of brick of, like, I don't know, steel or whatever, is like is harder to deform, first of all, and just then we can just throw overboard. Okay, and then the other thing is, again, the interrogation, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
Before the interrogation, just one thing. I pop open the speaking tube and I say, "Attention, captains. We've had our official greeting from the harbour master of Wald. We should be making port within a few hours."
Oh, I'm going to have to stop the research into all these yummy dishes that you found, Hurricane, and shower and join the crew. I mean the captains.
It would be useful if we could have a quick catch-up before we actually tie up the ship, but otherwise we've got an hour or two before we make port.
All right.
Oh, okay.
So that's what you're going to do. Your interrogation. Are you going alone, Blackstone, or are you taking Jorik with you? Yes, you're taking Jorik with you. All right. So the two of you go down into the lower chamber. You can...
Have we, by the way, at this point, dispatched of the other gnome?
I beg your pardon?
You're muted. You're muted. You're still muted.
We have not talked to it, so no, he's still there.
Correct.
Do we want to do that before we go and go to port?
I don't know. It's not going anywhere.
Well, the last time we went and landed somewhere, our prisoner miraculously escaped, so I'm a little bit like...
That's true.
Ah, yes, fine. Well, we can do that after this one then. I pop up the speaking tube and Adressai to the bricks, please.
All right.
All right.
Copy that.
The three of you arrive in the brig to find that, poor old Rorik. Rorik seems to be standing there. He looks very pale and very miserable, but he's standing staring into the corner as the three of you arrive. And you hear a snap from the one cell, and suddenly Rorik looks back and he's like, "Oh, captains, are
you all right?
Yes, thank you, Captain. Just a little bit seasick, apparently, according to the...
Do I recognize this?
No, you don't. He says seasickness. You don't see the telltale puncture marks on the neck. Certainly not that. But him staring into a corner, well, vampires have all sorts of mind tricks that they play on.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, the snapping of the fingers.
Right, is indicative of that.
You're dismissed.
Yes,
Go lie down for a while, why don't you?
Blackston.
Thank you.
Blackston, by the way.
He goes off.
As long as he's on the ship, we should probably not have any guards down here. Vampires can do terrible.
You're the person in charge of security.
Yes. I'm just saying, if you come down here and find no guards, it's deliberate.
Okay.
For that very reason, I point after the dazed fellow walking out.
Right.
Is he going to be all right?
Yes, he'll be fine. It's just... I thought I was rid of this forever, but all right.
So
Past does have a tendency.
I'll tell you later.
The lizard creature, which when it sees the three of you, it goes chack, 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 chack. And then it sort of bounces around its cot for a little bit, jumps onto a plate of food that it's been mauling, grabs the bone in its mouth and sort of scurries underneath the bed and keeps mauling on the bone.
See if we can get anything useful out of that thing, other side. We'll be talking to the other gentleman.
In the other cell is that very large human sitting, looking quite bored. It looks like he's playing with his nails.
Comprehend languages.
All right, so that's what you're doing. It takes 10 minutes, right?
Yes.
If I do it as a ritual, it takes 1 minute since I have it prepared now. Because I've realized I use it. It takes one.
Absolutely. That's what you do. He looks up. Two captains. This is
my friend has some questions for you.
Did you tell him your whole sad story? He looks over at you, Blackston. I am so sorry. They love to tell this tale of suffering and betrayal, and it's just boring, don't you think?
Actually, I don't think the stories of my fellow captains and their mindsets are boring to me. Well, if they're boring you, that's really your prerogative. Now, I've never really met you and had the chance to talk with you since you were on board. And I wanted to introduce myself, and I wondered if you were be so kind and to do the same thing. Just a matter of courtesy, really.
Who knew there would be someone on board who knew or understood the virtues of etiquette? This is indeed a delight.
So, my name is Blackson Rose.
Are you a tea merchant?
My father is a merchant of cloth, but...
Cloth! That is where I have heard the name Rose. Yes, Blackson Rose. In which case he says, standing to his full height and then doing a very precise bow, am Roden Thrift Ulkov, Duke of Ulkov and all of its territories.
Well, as far as I've heard, you got deposed. How long ago was it?
Matter of perspective. Yes, I have temporarily been away from my homeland, but this is about to change, I hope.
Right. And that is the exact reason why I'm here. What do you plan to do once you go back to your fiefdom?
The vampires of Drakenmoor may have made all the deals with their dragon overlords to secure their tenure, and then very sneakily managed to make their way into that treaty of your orders. I admire their tenacity at holding on to their territories. But they made the mistake of attempting to exile me from my home. This is never going to last. I will retake my castle of Ulkov by consuming that puppet that they have placed in my stead. Once I have done that, I plan on working my way through the rest of those pathetic dukes and removing them once and for all from Drakenmoor. Drakenmoor was never meant to be this democratic, voting, power-sharing cesspool that it is today. I believe they even now allow the villagers to vote as to who is to be dined upon by their overlords. This is nonsense. The old ways were the right ways, and I will restore that to Drakenmoor. Do not worry. I recognize the power that your order has to keep those lizards at bay, and I will recognize the treaties once I have united Drakenmoor.
So I wondered, my fellow captain here has a personal issue, and you were so kind in divulging that information to him.
You never know what information will be useful when you are in prison for as long as I have been.
Right. Since you already gave us the information we wanted, why should we try to help you? Why should I try to help you? Accomplishing the goals that you seek.
He looks at you, Jorik, with a smile. And then he looks back at you, Blackston. The way I see it, you could try to destroy me. Perhaps you are as skilled as you think you are, and you will succeed in doing this. It is true. I have supped little since my escape. I have tried to spare your crew as a matter of courtesy, taking only what little I could need to sustain my own vitality. This attempt of yours to destroy me might cause your entire ship to be lost. That is the risk you run. On the other hand, Skoflithir's sister is in the hands of Duke von Kier. Unless you plan on waging war against all 8 dukes, she will become his bride. An undead abomination that will feed upon the very people that she loved once before.
So you said this is the same duke you will wish to depose, is that correct?
I wish to eat him.
Well, yes. So, and you probably want to do this within the next 6 months.
I would like to do it as soon as possible. But
so once he is deposed, then there's no really a necessity for us to go there and wage the war that you mentioned before. Because you have certainly no need for the fair lady that is the sister of this man.
That is correct.
So you would let her go?
I would swear upon the honor of my house that there will be no harm to him or his sister for at least the next 6 generations.
All right.
I have a better idea. We bring you back to Drakkenmore, so you can do whatever you wish, and you release my sister from Drakkenmorian citizenship.
You know that this
Mortal, you do not need her.
is not part of our traditions.
Neither is Drakkenmorians joining the order, yet here I am.
And what a good circumstance that was for you.
I don't believe in fate. I do believe in coincidence. And if your sister happened to leave Drakkenmorian territory, it would be a strange coincidence that I would not dispatch seekers to find her and bring her back.
Good. Then I do not see our plans conflicting in any way. Laxton?
I think I asked all the questions and got the answers I needed.
Yes. And in the future, stay away from the crew. There are birds.
You would have me dine on the corpses of animals? What am I?
You can eat them when they're alive if you want to. You're a vampire. You think of something. I walk out.
I follow.
Yeah. All right.
Wait.
Oh.
I'm not done.
Oh.
I'm not done. This is not done, okay?
You sort of walk around the corner. It's like, nope.
I take Yorick up to the helm.
Yes. And decapitate him.
The helm? No. I bring Con into what we're talking about.
Blackston.
Con,
I'm going to come back to the three of you, just so that I can bounce to Adversary quickly.
Yes.
You finish your comprehend languages.
Yes. I want to go up to the little... What exactly does the prisoner look like now?
It looks like a blue scaly kobold. So
Okay.
muzzle, scales everywhere, twitchy little eyes, and yes.
And he's saying check, check, check. Does that mean anything to me now?
Well, now that he's saying that, what he's saying is, don't hurt, don't hurt.
All right. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to talk, okay?
Mm.
Do you know what I'm saying? Do you understand me?
Yes.
Good. Hi, my name is Adversary. What's your name?
I've got it written down somewhere. Katari Littlefoot.
Katari Littlefoot. Is that a gnomish name? Or is it
Of course it's a gnomish name.
So you're still a gnome? I mean, you are, but it's because we don't really know what's happened to you. We don't really know if you remember anything or what's going on.
I am not alone.
Not a gnome. You were a gnome.
No, I'm not. You can see him struggling, and then his demeanor changes, and he leaps up onto the bed so that he's taller than you are, and he looks down and says, "Why have you brought me here?"
Well, we couldn't exactly leave you there, could we?
Why? Why not? I want to go back.
To the prison?
What prison?
No, you want to go back through the portal to the dragons?
Why would I want to go back to those idiots?
Where are you from? Where do you want to go back?
I want to go back home.
Which is?
It's in Gwathkimble. That's where it is, says the face, now dropping down back into normal shape.
Huh. That's one of the gnome. Yes, it is. I've been to Gwathkimble. Not a lot of people like you there.
This is it's the scaling.
Yes. Do you know, did you spend a lot of time in front of engines? Is that why it, or did you do this on purpose somehow?
We didn't do it on purpose, but we didn't have a choice. We had to do it.
Why?
Look, his scales, and he looks back.
Let me just say first, we know about the portals. We know about the engines. You can talk to me.
You do?
Yes, we've figured that out. We're very smart.
When we attacked him in the engine room.
Yes. Might not have been quite present at the time, but
right.
We figured it out. So you can speak to me openly.
We had to do it. It was our orders.
From Sector 13. Right.
Send us back to our own time. This is not where we are meant to be.
You're of the Shakontil, aren't you?
What do you know of our people?
Not as much as I'd like to.
Then send me back.
How?
I did not ask to come here.
You transported into the bodies of the gnomes who are affected by the engines, aren't you?
What's a gnome?
They're small creatures, quite pleasant. But do you know where you are?
Not where I'm meant to be.
Which is back in time. So how did you get here? Look, I'm willing to help you. I want to figure this out.
You need to send me back. I don't know how I got here. I really just want to go back to Gwathkimble, he says. You notice that he's starting to bleed from his ears and his nose.
Right. Look, I'm going to speak to the others. Why don't you have a rest? And I'll come back and talk to you tomorrow, okay?
He sort of lies down and then curls down onto the bed itself.
All right. I go up and join the others. Sort of.
Well, yeah, I think Saket would have finished her shower and her binging.
You're done eating, showering, pampering, and life. What are you doing?
I'll go up and find the others. Hi.
So everyone is with everyone on the main deck, I suppose.
Yes, you probably all arrive in time to hear go, "You bought what onto my ship?"
Calm down.
You did what to Con? Should I just turn around and go back to the galley, or is?
Yes,
I have a plan.
Right.
Yes.
Does this
Go
plan
downstairs,
involve letting
open the shutters and let the sun in. Let's just drop it out of the cargo hold. I can set it on fire. Let's go right now.
What?
The druids can get someone to.
Con, you like your boat, don't you?
Sure.
We might be able to defeat him. We might not. I think we can stack our deck.
By help of the druids, perhaps?
Yes.
What are we talking about?
Blackston?
They've got a bloody vampire in the cargo hold.
Do you remember down in the high security prison, that guy who kept saying that he wasn't a vampire?
Yes.
I think maybe he was right. And that was some other prisoner who had been left there.
We'll figure this out together with the other druids. They've dealt with this kind before, and they certainly are no friends to his. Right?
So that means
Such a good day.
As much as I will agree with you, Blackston, it's still my sister.
Yes, and we'll get to there.
Can't we have your sister without this asshole?
We'll take his head and deliver it to the dukes. This will be worth something for them. And we're just talking about one woman.
One woman.
Yeah, one woman who happens to be my sister.
Yes, but one woman for them. For the head of their mortal enemy, which we disposed of.
Who they imprisoned?
Well, he's not imprisoned anymore because he's on board the boat. But what does Jorik's sister have to do with anything?
She's gonna get basically killed if we don't save her.
The Duke of Ulkov, not Duke Ulkov, but the Duke of Ulkov, has my sister. He's intending to turn her into a vampire bride. A bride of the night. In 6 months when there's a blood moon in Drakenmore.
So you want
This
to
vampire
cut off
down in
this
the-
vampire's head and give it to the other vampires?
No, Blackstone wants to do that. I want to bring this vampire back to Drakenmore so he can shit on every vampire over there, and he has agreed to release my sister for that.
He is a barbarian and a murderer. He will
Can't
just...
trust
They
him.
are all barbarians and murderers. They are
Precisely.
monsters.
You can't trust him to keep his word.
No, I was
If we
gonna
kill
say-
him now, we'll have 8 vampires still being dukes in Drakenmore. If you bring him back, nothing will change for the populace, but we'll have 1 vampire.
Who's 8 times
yes,
as powerful as
and,
any one of the ones that are there now? Is that really what we want to go?
And
up
also, he seems quite deranged, and it possibly just gets worse for the populace.
Yes, I'm really sad the Order didn't wipe Drakenmore from the face of the...
Well, then you wouldn't be here, possibly.
Yeah, it would have been better for
We
the
could get
planet.
around to it once we take over.
Well, as I said, if we manage to kill him with the help of the druids, which I think is much more likely than if we just would take them on alone, and if we... Well, we don't need to tell them immediately the entirety of the truth, but the information about the whereabouts of this person might be something worth to the barons, and furthermore, proof of his death, of his demise, will be much more so. So I think that is at least as good as a chance than some random off chance that he will go murdering around town in Drakenmore, killing whomever want to gain strength, and then a civil war, which will be even worse.
Also, there's the fact that if we hadn't been there, he would be free by now running around. And if we kill him, then they should owe us a massive favor.
Yes. I think it's a win-win situation if we try to kill him now. It's dangerous, but hey, what are we afraid of danger now all of a sudden?
No.
But
So-
Jorik's saying it's better for his people if we just...
Well, is it so?
The only way to make anything better for the people of Drakenmore is to wipe out the vampires. Period.
But wouldn't it
Agreed.
be much easier to pick them off one by one at some point and not have one united power?
Fine, you've made your point. You really only care about my sister.
Of course.
Okay.
And
I will help you with your sister. You have my word.
look,
Well, of course, we can't
Something.
have Jorik's sister becoming some sort of bride of the Count.
look, as important
Blood-sucking
as this is, we're going to have a couple of weeks to discuss it on our way east later. And I do have something that is
No,
going to-
we don't.
We still have a vampire in our brig.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. But I do have something that is going to complicate things extremely, and that you should all know.
Oh, good. Well, bring it on. Let's get it all over at once.
Mim, why?
Look, it kind of it both complicates things and make things better in a way. I spoke to the prisoner, was able to understand them. I don't think that the new body can speak Gnomish anymore. It was only able to communicate in this strange lizard tongue. First it claimed to be someone called Hastari Littlefoot, was it? That was a gnome and wanted to go home to the gnomish kingdoms. And then mid-conversation, it switched over and became something else. One of the
So it's possessed.
kind of one of the Chacontil, most definitely, which wants to go back home as well to its own time. And it seems to be switching back and forth. It didn't necessarily seem to be aware of each other. And as we were speaking, it started bleeding from its ears and nose, and I figured it was better to give it a break and go back to it tomorrow. But look, we have an actual charcoal till down there in the brig, as fascinating as that is. But the thing is, I think that the scaling is some kind of possession, like you said, like they come into the gnomes, which implies that whatever portal is in the engine is not necessarily a distance, but a time. It's all, I'm not really putting this together quite yet, but...
All right, keep us informed when you do.
We can absolutely speak to this thing, and I intend to continue.
So what you're saying is it's an involuntary thing from both sides?
Yes, it had no idea how or why it was here. It seemed to have been pulled across.
Well, how I see it, just another reason to stop this thing.
Definitely,
Great.
but...
So, the gnome was possessed by something from the dragon realm?
No, not necessarily. The past.
No, it was from
The Shakotil Empire, the lizards, the
what empire?
Dragons, even.
We spoke about this.
Yeah,
but
she
that's
told us all
Yes.
about this from the book. Were you not listening? I, for
Yes.
once, was listening to that.
What do I fuck you I give about like a random old book? We have dragons as a problem right now.
Because it's a book, it's
15,000-year-old
important.
civilization is now inside a gnome, and a member of a 15,000-year-old civilization is right now in a gnome in our brig.
Can we?
Can I
All
go
right.
talk to him?
Adversai.
I'll
So
translate
it's
for
worth
you.
pointing out that I just spoke to the harbour masters and told them that we weren't going to cause any trouble.
We're not. I'm just
Well,
going to
luckily
talk to
we'll
the man
contain this
about
in the
his
ship.
And
civilization.
now I find out we have a vampire duke,
Oh.
Which
As
will
the
do.
ancient representative of a
lizard
long-lost mysterious race in our hold. This is going to go well. I can see it.
Well,
Yes,
like
Doric.
that.
Focus on this lizard. Find out what you can, and when you cannot
Yes.
find anything more, we dispose of it.
Oh.
Because it's
Maybe
still
that sends it back.
a
I don't know.
result. Yeah, it's still a result of the dragon engine, or the dragon engine.
Yes.
When
And,
we do the
Dragon engine.
vampire, yeah.
if nothing else, I can approximately half the time, I can speak to the gnome
Right.
and hope maybe they can tell us about.
I mean, I don't understand any of these
Hastari.
things. But like once you learn anything more substantial, I think just keep us in the loop.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to bring the book down and see what they know about it, but maybe later, once I've gotten to know them a little bit better.
Sure.
Alright.
We need to ask them all about their time and their rituals.
Oh, yes, and the cigarettes
their
and the...
culture.
I
And
mean, these are the people whose artifacts are powering the engine, presumably.
there's a lot we can learn from this man. It's like having a time machine in our...
I
curse
know,
loudly.
it's so great.
No, it's not. I had to. It's not
I
great.
curse loudly as I suddenly remember something, and I go find the crew member who's been poorly.
Kevin?
Kevin. Kevin?
Kev, right? His name is just
Kev.
Kev. There's no in, it's just Kev.
When Con leaves, I would turn to Yorick and I say, "Does this plan that I came up with sound agreeable?"
Yes, as much as I would love to see Drakengwar flow in vampire blood, yes, fine.
It will also flow in other blood. That's what I'm honestly more worried about.
The thing is, you've not been to Drakengwar. The
No.
populace is nothing more than cattle. Having them have to vote on who dies is more torture than simply being killed at random.
Perhaps, but they also can make it send old and ill rather than
Yes, yeah, I see your point.
it's a bad situation and I agree with it, but we also have the Graith in the south and we have problems everywhere. That's just life, I guess. We can only try to make it better with what time and power.
I know, and it's not really my focus anymore either since I joined the order, but I'm sorry. I am from Drakengwar. I kind of feel strongly about it.
I understand, and I would feel strongly about it too. That's why I want to make sure that, and I want to tell you that in the end you have the final say in this, because this in the end mostly will affect you. I can promise you that I will try to help you in this however I can.
Yes.
All right.
Give me a day to think about it.
Well, I would want...
Or when do you want to speak with the druids?
I want Con, as one of their own, to speak with his superiors to inform them and get them ready as soon as possible with this.
Fine. Give me half an hour then.
Sure.
And I walk to the shrine.
All right, Con, you said you were going somewhere.
I went to find Kev now that I know what's wrong with him.
That's right. Kev is sleeping in his bunk.
Oh, well, if he's asleep,
right,
I'm reluctant to wake him up.
Black pudding, fine.
But I give him I take a look to see if he looks like he's still, now that I know what I'm looking for, is his color bad? Has he got some color back?
No, his color is still bad. Definitely still bad. His hair is lanky and matted. His eyes are sunken, extreme pallor.
I mean, I guess it seems thematically like it doesn't, but I guess I cure wounds him. I mean, what does a druid healer in the setting resort to for blood loss?
Right.
Create blood.
Create blood.
I mean, I don't know if it would help, but lesser restoration is a different kind of spell, a kind of different kind of healing.
Correct. No,
I can actually do if you need, so, but I don't know about Kev right now. So
cure wounds will certainly heal the wound on his shoulder. And now that you're looking, you know the legends of vampires. Now that you're looking, that cut on his shoulder, you gave him a poultice 2 days ago to apply to it, and you can see that he's been doing that. But when you open up the bandage again to get back to that cut, it's as if it was freshly made. Again, a deep cut. And now that you're looking at it really carefully, you can see that inside the cut are 2 additional puncture marks. So it's
diabolical bastards.
Love it.
I cast Cure Wounds on him and Lesser Restoration.
Lesser Restoration, all right. So colour starts to flow back into his cheeks and his eyes kind of bat open a little bit. He still looks a little bit pale, but he looks over at you and he goes, "Oh, Doctor, I think I've got over my seasickness."
Yes. Tell me, have you been having any bouts of memory loss? Moments in time when you find yourself not entirely sure what you've been doing?
Oh, that happens every Friday night, sir.
Yes, I know what you mean. But out of your normal cycle, as it were.
Well, now that you mention it, the last week, sir, I have been experiencing that quite a lot, sir. Usually it's when I'm on duty in the prison, but I kind of chalk that up to boredom, really. I mean, the one bloke just sits there all day, and the other one's a lizard which lies underneath the bed. So can't blame him for getting bored, really. You know, Lieutenant Ty says we're not allowed to play cards anymore or anything like that. So you sort of sit there. And,
not whilst on duty, no. Quite right.
Right, yes, sir.
Well, I believe we've rearranged the guard duty rotas for the brig anyway, so you won't be spending any more time down there. What I would recommend, though, is that you go and get yourself a hearty meal and tell Hurricane that I have said that you are to have a good portion of bloody red meat.
Oh, very much. Thank you very much, sir. I'll certainly, absolutely tell him that. Yeah, absolutely. He gets up and heads off.
I wander off, muttering and cursing under my breath.
Right.
Fucking Ashland leeches.
Okay. Charek's gone off to go and pray. Saket and Adrasai, you two ran below decks, as excited as a bunch of schoolgirls for a sleepover.
I'm not going to go back and talk to the lizard for now.
All right.
I'm going to let them rest.
Right.
I supervise Knaxa as he take us in, Knaxa.
Started to bring you into the harbour. All right.
Better get your practice in for this.
Okay. Well, she's gonna. Well, if Adrasai is not gonna let her talk to the lizard person now.
No. Let him rest.
Okay. Well, in that case, I think you've got to tell me everything that you
Yes.
have found out about the Chakron quill, and
Chakotil, yes.
we need to write it all down in a
Yes.
logical way that
Yes.
makes sense, and then we can add to it when we've spoken to the little
Yes.
wiki dude. And we need to also make categories of questions up that we need to ask him
Yes.
about stuff. I think it's a long meeting ahead of us.
Sounds excellent. Let's just start on the Book of Chakontil, I suppose.
Yeah, that must be it, right?
Oh my god, let's write a book together.
Ooh, it's gonna be good.
That's the
Dissertation!
best thing
Dissertation!
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. All right, well that starts to happen down below decks.
Are we gonna have to kill you later?
There's
What?
laughter and
Make
excitement
it
and
stop.
papers gathered from everywhere.
The Chakron Krill's influence on modern society.
Not a gnomish society.
Yeah, that's a better title.
All right, absolutely. Jarek, you're going to the shrine. What are you doing? Just praying.
Praying and trying not to curse under my breath.
All right.
Just that, what the hell am I supposed to do
Right.
in this situation?
Right.
And basically, he's asking for the clarity and the ability to see beyond his emotions, his feelings. Just logically think about this. What would logically be the best choice? That's what he's looking for.
Right. There's a polite cough from the door, feminine cough.
I turn around.
It's Lily. She's standing there looking at you with a sort of a pitying look on her face. Care to tell an old woman your problems? Only I've noticed that since I'm now allowed out of my rooms that you've been in here quite a lot recently.
Well, there's been a lot on my mind recently.
Understandable with everything that's going on, but this seems to be more than just a problem that the head can solve.
Yes. Wow, I don't even know where to begin, but let's say I have an option to, I guess it's bring revenge on old enemies. And in the process of doing so, save my sister from Drakenmore. Or I have the option of bringing revenge upon one old enemy, in the process hopefully saving my sister, and at the same time not bringing harm to a lot of other people.
Is that really a choice?
I guess not. It's just that as someone who's lived in Drakenmore and knows what it's all about, having the option to wipe out the vampires is an extremely enticing. In fact, I would say it would be equal to wiping out the dragons. Drakenmore is just a mirror image of what this world was under the dragons, but worse. Drakenmore is a horrible place.
How do you wipe out these vampires?
By unleashing someone who is far worse than them to wipe them out. It would be one problem to deal with instead of several problems to deal with, but it's not in the Order's business to mess with other countries' political stuff.
We're not in the Order anymore. You've decided.
I know, but I still believe in the basic tenets of the Order. I do not wish to change the Order except for that whole do not open portals to the Dragon Realm.
So you would fight the dragons without using their own power against them, and yet you would use a vampire to kill other vampires.
Ooh, low blow.
I'm not that sort of girl.
No, but Jorik actually looks like a pale ghost all of a sudden as that realization hits him, and he says, wow, you have a point.
I'm merely stating what I'm hearing you say. I could be completely wrong. I haven't read your mind, so... I don't.
No, and you wouldn't find much but chaos there anyway. But thank you.
As with most, we never know our own thoughts, really.
That did give me some insight, however, so thank you.
Well, my door is now always open if you need someone to talk to.
I just might. Excuse me, I have some business to attend to. And I walk off to the deck.
All right. Blackston, what are you doing whilst everything is going on? The ship is slowly coming into dock.
Yeah, I guess since Con ran away. I don't like this.
It's kind of just you and Nexon. Are you steering?
I don't know if Nexon with us. I didn't know that Nexon was there.
Well, the moment that he sees Con leave, Nexon or Lieutenant Ty sort of run for the wheel because they know that there's not a lot of focus on keeping the ship in a steady course when the captains are debating.
All right, then you got this. If you got this covered, then I would go for Con and see if I can talk and basically tell him the rest of my plan, which I...
Oh yeah, I mean, we would have run into each other, because once I'm done with Kev, I would have headed back towards the deck anyway.
Right.
Suppose we could all sort of meet up in the map room or whatever.
Yeah, there's a sort of a general crossing over. And all right, so what are you going to say to Con?
Basically, to tell him the rest of the plan that he missed because he went away. That I want him basically to get to the druids and talk with them about it because he might have an easier time doing that.
Yes, I will consult with the druids. I imagine that 500-year-old vampire duke is probably a bit more than we can
at least
by ourselves.
At least it wouldn't hurt, and they might actually appreciate it.
While we're speaking to the druids, could we bring up the whole possible allies thing as well while we're here? I mean, if they're on our side in this.
Gosh, I've got a lot to bring to whoever it is I'm talking to later.
I mean, if we want them to get involved in this at all.
Do we? I don't know. I don't know the druids well enough. I just know that they don't like undead. So, which I don't like him as well. So,
Jorik comes up on deck and says, "Okay, Blackston, we'll go with your plan. I'm okay with it."
And on that note, we come to the end of another episode of Talking and more talking. Then
when it's gonna kick.
There'll be more talking. No, I'm just being facetious. Absolutely. Thank you for watching, and hopefully you're enjoying this intrigue that we now find ourselves in. Very different from the usual sort of facing down ziggurats and chasing psychopaths trying to kill poor innocent halflings and all those sort of wonderful things. Anyway, plans are afoot. What would you do if you were in their shoes? Would you have turned off the engines of the Windswift? Or would you have kept her afloat? Would you use dragons against dragons or vampires against vampires? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to read your comments. Anyway, if you don't stay for the review afterwards, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next week. For those of you that do stay, let's do our Dice of Destiny number 2. That's me. So I suppose I don't often sort of contribute to these post discussions, really, but
you should.
This is a situation where you, as players, have got so much to decide and so much to do, and so many threads that it's really up to you guys in which direction that you head. And what I find so fascinating is that in similar games where I've played with the orders before, I had an order of the Anchors, and when they found out that the dragons were involved in the engines, they absolutely embraced it, and they didn't go against the orders. They actually they kind of took that as a sign to do even more, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's so interesting to see how the same kind of situation is played completely the opposite, and the ramifications that have come through to that as well is quite different. So I think it's absolutely wonderful to watch it unfold and to get a totally different perspective on this sort of decision that needs to be made. As to the moral dilemmas in terms of the vampire and that kind of thing, I think what I'm really appreciating a lot more is that with this whole thing, the crew have been a lot more involved. The NPCs have been a lot more engaged, whether that's conscious or unconscious, or whether it's because you have an opportunity to do so now, whereas before it was always reacting to a crisis or this. I mean, this is a big crisis, but it's a crisis of personal space, I suppose. So the NPCs have been a lot more engaged, which has allowed me to sort of flesh them out a little bit more here and there, and really start to get a sense of the crew on board the ship. I mean, we've never met Kev or Rorik before. They've always just sort of been the deckhands or the guards or the whatever.
The red shirt.
Right, the red shirt in the background. Now we've got names and we're starting to...
Oh, we love them.
Which means they'll die next episode.
Which means that... absolutely. So anyway, it's going to be very interesting to see where this goes. I have absolutely no idea. The plans that I made, I was given notes by the players going, oh, well, we've decided we're going to do this, and that. We're going to go there, and there. So I've frantically made notes about all the locations that they're going to. I'll take the book now and I'll just sort of chuck it over there because...
I mean, I don't think that's actually wrong yet.
It hasn't changed, really. We just sort of
we just haven't got there yet, right? No. I'm being overly dramatic. It's fantastic that...
I mean, we made plans for the next, I guess, 8 to 10 sessions at least, depending on...
At least.
Right.
Yeah, we've got plenty to do, including rescuing Jorik's sister from the dark, which I'm quite looking. I'll just say I'm looking forward to that when we get to it naturally. An adventure rescuing someone from the realm of the vampires sounds
cool. Hopefully we'll get to it on Halloween, but that might be a little bit tough.
That would be awesome. It would be a great Halloween episode. Wouldn't it?
It would be.
Wouldn't it? Yes, so that's a month.
Yeah.
We might have to record that ahead of time. Right.
Anyway, so yeah, all right. So, Con, what are your thoughts beyond that? I mean,
I guess it's funny when you get to the end and you realize, gosh, we've not rolled dice, hit anything with a sword, and yet
I couldn't do it.
We've just stolen a bunch of swords.
Hey, and laser pew-pews.
Yes.
Yeah, but again, we have this kind of build-up. I think we like to do this, but it also feels kind of more authentic because we don't just go off half-cocked, and not all the time anyway.
Indeed.
But you just know that when this kicks off, it's going to be pretty interesting. Actually, it's kind of fun. I mean, it has been, I think, these last 2 sessions have definitely been a reframing of what we are and what we're doing, because we have kind of we started off with the whole, we're going to be the Order Hastari adventures, defeating the dragon, not expecting that within a few adventures time we would find ourselves here. So where we're kind of changing the nature of the game, where we're not going to be the FBI anymore, we're going to be the
internal affairs.
The commissars.
Right. It is interesting. It's very interesting. For me, it's very dynamic. The campaign is very, very different to what one anticipated. I think it's quite interesting. Jorik, we saw some wonderful role playing there in terms of shouting and getting all emotional about your homeland. I hope you you at home watching this, like me, it's kind of very intriguing to kind of go, well, what's got this man so emotional about his homeland of Drakenmoor, this strange place? What is going on there?
Yeah. I am loving this. It's a lot of fun to explore Jorik as a character. And I mean, you have never written a character like finished. It's always evolving. You come up with new things all the time. So as I'm playing Jorik, he's growing as a character, and that's a lot of fun. But there are certain parts of his personality that are already set and that I've decided on. And one of them is that he absolutely hates the vampires because of what they've done to his homeland. And he looks upon them no better than the dragons. He thinks, as he said, that Drakenmoor is just the world in miniature. They're just as bad as the dragons. He does not understand how the Order could ever accept that. But he's in the Order. He can't do anything about it. So that's why he's got kind of emotional about it too, because this is something that is pent up inside him. He remembers how it was to be a Drakenmorian, how it was to constantly be looking over your shoulder because maybe the dukes or some noble vampires men are looking at you the wrong way because, oh, you might be a nice snack. It's just this constant terror just weighs you down and you're nothing more than cattle. And with meeting this vampire, this all just flows back into his mind. He remembers just how it was. And his family was annihilated by vampires. So, I mean, this is not something he likes at all.
Absolutely.
And his sister is all he has left, and they want to turn her into a vampire. It's like, no!
Absolutely.
And if he had the option to actually exact vengeance on them, which was what he wanted to do. He wanted to unleash this Ulkov over Drakenmore just to fuck you guys.
Right. Absolutely.
But it may necessarily not be the right choice to do, but that was definitely what he wanted to do because, payback.
You've got a family now to hold you back.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting going forward. This was a great episode for me as a player and very fun exploring Jorik, how he would react to these things. So thanks to all of you. So great.
Right. It has been a lot of fun. It's funny, Drakenmore, not frequently, but it does get criticized by people saying, but why on earth would they allow these vampires to survive in this space, doing these atrocious things? And I always created Drakenmore specifically for that reason, is that it's amazing how a global community can allow a nation to do horrific things whilst at the same time claiming to be against it, right?
We're kind of seeing that in
do we really want to bring the allegory in this? But
really, I don't want to go there, but
we'll leave it there.
There's
very
the
hot
world.
topic, right?
Absolutely. But that's what all of Braxia is about. It's about exploring those different kinds of things. And to see people getting angry over it, well, yes, absolutely. You should get angry. I think. Anyway, Saket, again, not a huge amount for you.
No, she's been eating a lot.
Yeah.
Don't worry about this. I mean,
Are you trying to compensate something from real
tell
life?
us? I'm not sure. But I think it has been a lot of eating of feelings and trying to process through loss of that family figure in her life. Like, okay, and now we've justified it because we're just going to make the order better, and now she's completely distracted herself with academic study, so that's going to go great.
Well, that's interesting. That's similar to my allegory. It's kind of like, yes, I know the entire world is falling apart, but I'm going to focus on this piece of information here.
Focus on what you can control.
Exactly. Right. So now we've got to that point, so that'll be interesting. So
speaking of family, actually, I forgot to mention that it feels like we are much more part of a crew now.
Yeah.
It feels more like now it's the entire crew. It's just not the captains and the crew anymore. It's the crew of the Windswift. I don't know what changed, but I feel it that way anyway, that we're much more a part of the crew now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We're united in one goal. We were before, but now we're really united.
Now we're really united. And now we're more equal, perhaps, than we were, but still not completely equal.
Just enough.
Just enough. Adresai?
Yes. No, I found that moment when the crew stepped forward one by one quite touching, actually. Yes. I thought that was really nice, and I felt that like they appreciated being like allowed to make that decision, because like we could have just moved along and sort of dragged them into our crusade without giving them the option, and they were just fully on our side, which is I thought that was really nice. And I really, really like that we're getting to know the crew better, because a lot of our adventures has been off the ship as well. Like the ship has just been a vessel to get to the plot, but now the vessel is part of the plot, which I like a lot better. Mm-hmm. And it feels a lot more like home. I also have to say, right at the beginning, or not right at the beginning, but when we did the wisdom saving throw to down with the engine, I just like, because the rules are for wisdom saving throws is like for like resisting magic spells and stuff like that, and I just felt it was such a perfect use of that roll. I didn't realize what you were doing until afterwards, but like, yes, this is literally a saving throw against being wise enough to realize that this is not the time to get dug into the details of this engine. And it was perfect for the character, and it was perfect for it was just this great moment of using the system to enhance the story rather than having it as just a facilitator of it. Sure. I really enjoyed that.
Well, I'm glad that got through there. I kind of saw it as a mesmerizing effect, right? Because that does happen. And I've seen it happen so often, is where you get absorbed in a conversation and suddenly you go, where did the time go? Right?
Oh, Jesus Christ,
So that definitely happens.
Especially with things that you like to do.
Yeah, exactly. So it's something that it's specifically interested in, and
correct.
They were interested in it as well, and it was like almost like a wisdom saving throw for all three of us.
That's right.
Yeah,
the gnomes, absolutely, because it's sort of uncorking this
secret,
which now they can release the world. So Blackston, you've got some plans afoot. Well, you've got many plans afoot. I kind of feel like you're a man with 6 fishing rods. And it's like, I've got this line, I've got this line, I've got that line, we're going to do this.
Yeah, I generally like these kinds of things, and it worked out so well. I could possibly, in the past, what could possibly go wrong going in the future, right?
Right.
Okay, so I have actually several things that I wanted to say. First thing is that we've been talking the last 2 weeks about, there's not a lot of fighting, yada, yada, yada going on. But I completely disagree with the necessity of that just for the sake of fighting.
Right.
Now, the upcoming fight with the Baron will be so much more satisfying because there's a phase to the stats. That just like, if it's just an orc, or if it's like Gorok, the orc that raided your village, there's such an immense difference than going Diablo style into the next dungeon, just hack and slashing your way through the masses of rando monsters that are just stat blocks. So I think that gives it so much more substance and so much more like a visceral feeling once you overcome this. So that's the first thing. So I think that's entirely the right way to do it. Even random encounters, if you can call it like this with the Baron, like it's a random thing, at least for the main storyline, right? That's what I mean.
Sure.
Is much more personal, much more impactful if there's something to it, and it's not just like, oh, they're a highwayman.
Right. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
The next thing is that, holy dang, the direction this campaign has been going, and I mean, Jonathan and I have been playing this now for a bit over than a year. Has gone so much, even if it was interesting in the past, and I was really looking forward to kind of uncovering and like killing dragons. But now it has become so much more like personal, and I just enjoy that way more. I enjoy it way more to have like the adventure coming from the players more than having like the doctrine of the order kind of delegating us where we should point our swords. I mean, that's the game that I run, so I'm biased. But so that is, I'm looking so much forward to it, to see this. And now that we have, and this is me as a dungeon master speaking, now that we have faces to the crew, to the red shirts, they actually can die, and it will impact us much more because we don't have easy replacement for them. Right? It's not we can go back to the easily and get like replacement, because now that's actually a resource we need to worry about.
Right.
Similarly, the resources right now we are not really renegades yet, at least in the eyes of the order, so we can still get resources for now from them. But this will become, depending on how it goes, much more interesting. So there's so much more kind of things that we need to think about going forward that I think that's great. It's just great. I love this kind of stuff. I love it. And also the fights we're going to fight will be twofold. Either a fight of wit, trying to convince the opponent from the orders to join us, or to make sure they don't tell anybody and it doesn't come out. So this is like, the stakes are just raised, and raising stakes is good for like tension, and tension is just generally good for a game. So that's something. That's why I enjoy this so much, and I think that's great. As the situation for Yorick, for Tobias's character, I mean, what can I tell you? Like that, I love the problem situation between like being like a analytical mind and then having these emotions basically just wash over and just like take control. And I adored it so much that I didn't adore that he came to me. I liked, obviously, that he came to me, but I adored the situation so much that this played into my background, into the character's motivation perfectly. Because we talked about this April last year when we first talked about this game, that I want to make a character that feels that the ills of the world mostly come from conflict. Now, then unleashing this, making it a conflict, is just the thing that he really wouldn't want to have happened. And I needed to weigh very carefully here as a character, I think, if I want to dictate where I'm going to go with this, because this is much more close to another player than Hundkin, which was before, which was like a side character, which doesn't really impact the other characters. And here it impacted another player. So that's why I even though the character had said like, well, my character wouldn't do it, and then I just run with it. But I still wanted to make sure that Tobias as a player and his character is fine with it, because to make very clear that this is your thing, and I make very clear where my character stands, but in the end, it's you. And I think that is really so important, to not like hog the spotlight or just like dictate paths when like these critical points come. And I think kind of identifying them is sometimes hard, but also necessary to kind of the enjoyment for everybody.
And for Jorg, it was a case of he had to overcome a lifetime of fear and hatred of the vampires in order to see your vengeance is not worth it.
That's it.
Right. So it was great, actually.
So anyone paying attention, reading your players' characters' backstories can help make your game seem that much more interesting. Anyway, thank you for joining us. I think I've covered everyone. Did I miss anybody out? I didn't think I missed anybody out, did I? Did I? No? Anyway, I hope I didn't. Until next time, thank you for joining us. Hit that like button if you like the show, if you like the tack that the crew have taken, all puns intended, then stick around, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next week. If not, well then, like the vampires, I hope you see the sunlight.
If you like the vampires, then
Oh.
go away.
Until next time, goodbye.
Bye.